Hi guys, welcome to my tutorial. As you can see, I finally got my microphone working again. So yay! So I will give you guys a quick warning. The Celestina tutorial probably won't have part 2 coming, partially because it's just been so long since I've been able to do it, and partially because I really do think that it was just getting a little bit too big. So I'm probably going to try and focus on just little mini quick tutorials that show you how I do specific things. So today I am actually going to be doing something that I have had a surprising amount of questions on. I am going to show you how I pack up and set up my paid base packs. Obviously I'm not going to take you through every tiny little thing I do, you know, how to actually set up the base, but basically how to save in the different file formats, how to use the WinRAR program to zip it up, and how to set it up as a paid deviation. So as you can see, I already have a base set up here. It's all ready to go. It's already been shaded. The first thing that I really want to go over before I even get to actually saving it is how to set up a layered base. A lot of people that I have seen, they don't name their layers. Try and keep everything on its own separate layer. You know, even if you're doing like the face, like I don't just have the eyes. Everything in eyes has its own particular little layer. That way everything is customizable. It's really easy to go through and just, you know, change the eye color or the eyelashes or the shape of the eyes or the lips. I also make sure to give everything a very clear name, so that way it's really easy to see at a glance. So, you know, if you want to go through and say change the shading to account for a skirt or a bit of hair, you can immediately see that that is the skin shading layer. I also do recommend putting the head, aside from putting everything on its own layer so that you can customize it, put it all in a folder so people can just turn the whole thing off if they want to make their own face. Because generally speaking, I find a lot of people don't do that, and I think it's because a lot of the bases have the face worked in, and it's too hard to try and manually erase it. And this way, all they have to do is flick a button and they can put their own face on it. You'll have to mind me if I'm sniffling. My microphone picks up everything and I have allergies, so so again, you can see I've already got the base all set up here. Now I work in Paint Tool size, so I always include a SCI file. Obviously if you don't have SCI, you don't have to use this. These instructions I'm making are for size, so oh, and one more thing actually before we get through to saving in the different formats. And this one is one that really annoys me actually, is size. You see a lot of bases that are ridiculously tiny. And really, the bigger, the better really does apply in this case. Less is not more. Do not do your things tiny. You know, a base should not be this size when you open it up. You can't work with that. Otherwise, the person's going to have to really zoom in. Everything's going to get fuzzy. If they want to make it bigger, it's going to get really fuzzy. Obviously, not everyone's going to be able to do it as huge as I do. If you go into here and to the resolution, you can see I use a resolution of 600 with the size that is roughly equal to about the size of a regular piece of paper. I actually do recommend doing the piece of paper thing, only because I know some people like to print out bases, and that just makes it easier for them. I actually do it, which is why I do it on a regular piece of paper. But for resolution, I do recommend at least 300. Obviously, you can go bigger. I wouldn't go much bigger than I do, because I'm actually a little too big for some people, but at least 300 resolution, so it's a nice big image. You know, I know some people are worried about making them too big, but really, it's a lot easier to resize something to go smaller than it is to go bigger. So I really do recommend make it too big. So, as you can see, I already have my folder set up here. I keep everything in its own folder because you're going to have multiple formats, it just makes it a little bit easier and makes your computer a little bit more organized. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, I always recommend, even if you don't include anything else in this pack, include a .psd or Photoshop file. And actually, as you can see, I went through to export as. I really do recommend this, especially if you're newer at it. Once you get comfortable, you can use save as, but this way you're exporting a Photoshop, but what you have open here is still a SCI file. So that way, if you happen to make a mistake, later on we're going to be erasing all the color. So if you accidentally mess that up, it's a lot easier to undo if you're exporting than if you're saving. So we're going to export a Photoshop file. I usually just keep it the same name for that because you can usually tell right away that it's Photoshop as opposed to SCI. And just save. That one's pretty easy. The next thing we're going to do is actually to save it as a .png file. So we're just going to go through and we're going to choose PNG. Now obviously there's a few other options, but I really don't recommend saving anything in them, like ever, especially not JPEG. There is nothing that will come out with as a JPEG unscathed. The only other thing I ever recommend is .gif or GIF format. That's only if you're animating, which you can't do in SCI and you're not going to do for bases anyway. So we're going to go through. Now at this point, because we're going to be saving multiple PNG files, you do want to give it a different name. And normally all I do is add on a word or two that describes what it is. So in this case, this is just going to be the base with the solid background. So we'll hit save. Now if you have the most updated version of SCI, you're going to have the option whether you want to have it solid or transparent. So if it's 24, that's solid, which means this white background here is going to come out as a white background. 32 means that this white background or anything that you haven't applied color to is going to come out as transparent. And you'll see what I mean in a minute after I'm done saving. So we're going to go through it and save this as 24. Yours probably won't take as long to save. Mine's kind of big, so. And then we're going to go through, do the same thing. But this time we're going to just call it, I usually say trans, short for transparent. Make sure that whatever you pick is something that you'll remember so that you can keep your naming consistent. So, every base pack you offer, your transparent PNG should be ending in trans or 32 or Bob or whatever you picked. I actually don't recommend Bob, but you get what I mean. But this time we're actually going to choose 32 because we want to have that transparency to it. So we'll let that save. And as you can see, it's adding all those to this little folder as well. So you can see when I open it up this is just a basic Windows viewer. This one here is the solid one, and as you can see, it has that white background. And then the transparent one has no background. But it does have the white eyes, so it's not eliminating all the white, just all the areas that you haven't colored. I know inside that can get a little confusing too because it looks white back here. Just think of this as Photoshop's checkered background. There is really nothing there, even though it looks white. So this is your basic pack. It has, and really you don't even need the SCI version. Basically, at least one layered format, a transparent PNG, and a solid PNG. Now, I usually go a little above and beyond, and I offer black and white versions for people who are printing those out, and those are actually really easy to make. And this is the reason why I say do export as, because if you mess this up, you can break your SCI file and then you have to go through and do all your shading and stuff again. So we're going to go through and delete those. Now this, and one of the handy things about having this as a line art file layer is I can then go to my color button here, choose select all, or just hit Control A, and that's A as an apple. And then you're just going to click somewhere with this as black. And it'll turn all your line art to black. So I'm going to go through it and do the same thing for the guides and the eyes. If you're using guidelines, you might want to shut them down at this point, just so that you can make sure you don't miss anything. And I do recommend deleting color layers instead of just turning them white. So if you turn them white, it'll mess up the transparent PNG. And at some points you might find, like I do here, that you need to erase parts of your line art. So again, a good reason to export. So again, just turn everything black. On eyes, I normally get rid of the eye shine as well, because it kind of looks weird on the black ones, or black and white images. And then you want to go through and make sure that you haven't missed anything. I always miss these bottom lashes. This time I did it deliberately, but normally I forget. So now that we have a nice black and white image, we're going to go through and just do the exact same thing. And again, make sure you give it a special name. So in this case, because it's not only solid, it's a line art solid. Simple names. They don't have to be something really fancy or long. You don't have to do the caps either. I just do that as an eye catcher. And this next part is because I add guidelines to some of them. So there we go. So that will save, again, with the white background. And if you want to make it really easy to name them, find your other one. So in this one I'm doing another line art, so I just found that line art one and just changed solid to trans. Makes it a little bit quicker. And again, choose the transparent option. So then you have, a good amount of options for people to choose from for the bases. I really recommend doing at least this many if you're going to be charging, because you want to make sure, that they're getting their money's worth, even if you're only charging the token 10 points like I do. So again, you can see, I'll just go over this quick. White background, no white background. So now I do a few extra things with the guidelines. Not going to show you that, just because it's the exact same thing over again, and because a girl has to keep some secrets. So I am just going to go through and get those files, and then we'll be all ready to zip it and upload it to DeviantArt. Alright, so as you can see, I have all my files set up. I have a lot of files in my pack, so now we're going to want to pack them all up. And I had this opening up, so we can use it in a minute. Let's wait. Oh, there we go. So, now the program I'm going to be using for this is called WinRAR. W-I-N-R-A-R. I'll try and make sure to put a link down below, but if I don't, and you want to know, leave a comment and let me know, and I'll add it to the description of the video. It is a free program. It says when you download it that it's a trial version, but past the trial, last time I checked, all you get is an annoying little pop-up every time you open it up, but it's still fully functional. And I really do recommend it, because it is pretty easy to use. If you're using a different program, I really can't help you, because WinRAR is about the only thing I've used for about 5 or 6 years now, so I really don't know any other programs, especially not if you're on a Mac. But to use WinRAR, you're just going to go through and select everything. And basically all I did was select this one, press down Shift, and while I'm pressing down Shift, hit my last one that I want to select. So this selects everything. And then I'm going to right click, and then I'm just going to add to archive. Do not select this option because not everybody can open up .rar. And I normally, it'll give you a random name. Usually if you select everything in the folder, it gives you the name of the folder. I really recommend renaming it to something with no spaces. just because some people's computers break with spaces. I also put my name in here as well. That way nobody can claim they didn't know it was my base, because it's on the name of the zip file. Twice. It'll actually tack on by Enchanting Rainbow, so you really have to know it's my base at this point. And I'm going to select zip, and then just hit OK. So now we have our zip file, and that contains all of those. A little bit easier than trying to upload all of those. I think you can, but this, definitely an easier option, quicker for people to download. Now, you cannot just upload this to DeviantArt as is. You're basically going to have to include a preview image of some kind. Otherwise, it's going to say no image, and especially if you're doing a paid download, as far as I know, it won't let you do it. So basically, all you really have to do is just upload one of your PNG files, if you just want to be really basic. You can even just do a very small version of it. Anybody who's seen mine knows that I actually have a little... Come on. I actually have a little preview file that I use. It's a fairly generic file, partially because it's all about consistency. People can see that preview and know that it's immediately one of my bases. If you are going to do a preview image like this, I normally recommend, for one, include what you have in the base, or in the pack. So that way people can see at a glance what you have included. And it's a little bit less that you have to put in your description. I also add that rule in there about crediting me. Some people just don't read descriptions. So I literally put this everywhere I can. And of course the name of the base as well. And an image of the actual base. I also recommend, if it's a paid download, adding a watermark of some kind to cover up part of the base, or to distort it, so that way people can't just save that image. I actually had a lot of people doing that when I had my old watermark on it. Not quite sure why. And your preview image, don't make it too fancy. So all I'm going to do is add in the picture of my base. So I'm just going to take the transparent ping, drag it over. Depending on what program, if you're using guidelines, don't do what I just did. I just realized I saved all those with the guidelines. Let's just open up Side quickly. Thank goodness Side opens up quick. There we go. So yeah, make sure if you're using guidelines that they don't show up in your PNGs like those did. So we're just going to go through. And this will turn it into something called a... At least it... No, yeah. Just position it where you want it, hit enter. It turns it into what's called a smart object. You can see this little collection buttons here. Normally that doesn't actually do anything, but if, like me, you need to delete something here, all you have to do is double click on it, on the actual image in the layer, and it'll open up this image separately, so then you can go through and just get rid of whatever you need to. And then just hit Control S to save it, and that's S as in snake. And that Control W to close it. And as you can see, that skin color thing is no longer there. And then what we're going to do, if you're using a preview template like I do, don't just save it. Save as, and give it its own custom name. And another reason why it's good to have the folder, you can just save it right in the folder. And normally I just give it the name of what it's going to be when I upload it. I can't remember what I normally name them. and then again, I normally just save it as a PNG. Alright, and we are actually done with all those programs. It is now time to get it up on DeviantArt. So we're just going to go to DeviantArt. I'm actually going to do one quick... Dang. Good heavens. There we go. I am a beta tester, so I am just going to shut this off because my thing looks a little bit different. Oh, actually no, I'm not. I turned it off. Oh, that's right, because it was breaking everything. So we're going to go through to submit. Now, if you're not a premium member, your submit is going to look a little bit different than this, I think. If you're not premium, though, you're probably not going to be able to offer it as premium content, which means you're not going to be able to charge for it. Now, just to keep things simple, when it asks me to upload something, I normally get both the zip and the preview. So, just going to make sure that I have done this properly. So I'm just going to go through and upload it. Now for my description, I actually use a generic based description. Which is just a weird little quirk that I have, but normally you would just put just anything information in there, including usually the very first thing I make sure to do is to tell people to make sure they credit me. Again, I put that everywhere so that people can't claim they didn't see it. And I usually also recommend putting in what it includes, just in case this thing is being slow on loading. Actually, I don't need that anymore. And I usually add in, I actually recommend using keywords. I think a lot of people don't think to do them. And I actually have no idea. I think there is actual base folders, but I don't use it. This part's actually pretty simple. Alright, now, if you're just offering this as a free pack, you're just going to have the submit button here. You'll submit it, and you'll probably have to upload your actual file. I'm going to assume that if you're here, you're probably going to want to be offering it as a premium content anyway. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a check mark here beside the premium content. And do not offer the file as a free download. So we're going to hit continue. And this is why I uploaded the preview instead of the actual file. Because you're going to add the actual file here as the content to be sold. It says you can do it from Stash. Really, it's just easier to do it like this. This will probably take a while, so I am just going to pause and I will come back when it is done uploading. Alright, so as you can see, it is finished uploading. So I'm just going to click it. It will attach it as a zip file. And usually at this point you can just select your price. I do one extra thing, and I really do recommend it, because again, it lets people know that they really need to credit you. And that is the seller agreement. Now, normally speaking, if you just leave this at the default, this is what they're going to see. Lots of legalese. I choose the custom one and actually made up my own. So basically it just says you're buying a license, so that people don't assume that because they're buying it, they don't have to credit. Also does a description on how to actually credit, and then basically what I will do if you don't credit me. I also claim that I will bring the Winx community down upon your head if you don't credit me, because I will. And again, I actually keep this in a note file in my base folder, so that I can access it easily. Now, because I'm using a custom one, you just paste it here. So basically what they're going to see now when they go to buy it is just this and then this. And now you set your price. Normally if you hit the up and down button, it will do increments of 10. You actually have to use increments. The maximum is 8,000, which I believe comes out to about $80. Don't charge 8,000 points. I don't think anybody would pay $80 for a base, no matter how good it is. I normally charge the bare minimum 10, and really that's only as a token. The only reason I really charge for my bases is to add some extra value to them, and to really force people to know that they have to credit. And I normally only do it on my hand-drawn ones, not on fully traced ones, only because I wouldn't feel right doing it. But again, it is your own personal options. Make sure you have check marks beside those two. If for some reason you have more than one thing to offer people to download, you can add it there. Apparently you can offer them more than one thing at a time, but I really don't recommend it. And then just hit submit. And your base pack is ready to go. So now when someone wants to download it, they'll just have to hit the purchase button here. They can see exactly what they're downloading. And the one thing as well to note is that if someone purchases it and then needs to re-download it, they're not going to have to pay again. So that way you can just kind of assure people of that. They're not going to have to pay every time they want to download. They just download it once. If they want a refund, they can actually request it right through this area here as well. I've had a few people that have actually requested refunds that way. I normally recommend keeping track of who's doing that though. Otherwise you might have people who download it, request a refund, download it, request a refund. And then you're basically giving them free bases. Another thing to keep in mind as well is that you will technically only get 8 points out of this. DeviantArt does take a small commission out of it. You will also have to wait 14 days before you can actually access them. So if you go here to shop and then to my earnings, you can actually see basically how much you've gotten. So you can see that each of these was worth about 10 cents. But I only actually got 8 points out of it. So I only got 8 cents because of the commission that DeviantArt takes for them. Now the great thing about paid downloads, and the reason why I do every point transaction through a paid download, is that anything that you have left over, or anything that you earn, for example, as you can see, I have $6.50 available. I actually have a few options for this now. I can convert it into points, but I've got 800 points. I don't really need any more. So I can also withdraw by PayPal. And PayPal is a free account. You just attach it to your bank account. You can put it into PayPal, spend it online, or withdraw it into your bank account. You've got a bit of extra money. Great if you're doing commissions. If you're just doing bases, it's going to take a while before you have anything worth withdrawing. With PayPal, you also have to have a minimum of $5. And as you can see up here, it'll tell you how much you have available, how much is still during that 14-day holding period. I think that's to account in case of refunds, so that the points are still there, and it'll also say how much you've withdrawn. I have not made that much off of bases. I promise most of that is from commissions. So yeah, so have fun. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below, or you can also leave a comment on my DeviantArt page. Again, I am Enchanting Rainbow. Bye guys!